Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host,
EGO.
the CGO, or George. Today is the 11th of March, 2026. We are talking about Champions League results, Champions League games. There are 4 games today. I'll read off the results real quick. Arsenal played Leverkusen to a draw 1-1 in Germany. PSG beat Chelsea at home 5-2. Bodo Glimt beat Sporting 3-0. And Real Madrid beat Man City 3-0 in Madrid. Let's talk first, George, about Leverkusen Arsenal. This is a game in Germany. This is a game where there's a penalty at the end of the game that was soft at best. There was a little contact. Arsenal was probably outplayed. Ironically, they got scored on a corner kick. I think, George, based on what I saw of this game, that Arsenal are probably still slightly favored in this tie because the next leg is at home, probably heavily favored, I would say. What were your thoughts in this game? Do you feel like Arsenal can win in London?
The reality is that in today's game, Arsenal didn't play very well. They played below expectation. For me, Bayer Leverkusen were the better team in this game. Like you rightly said, that penalty was a soft one. Some referees would have overlooked it because the contact wasn't a very serious contact. But when it comes to the game of football, sometimes referees are the ones that always make the final call, the final decision. And then even the VAR agreed with the decision of the referee. So I feel Arsenal were very fortunate today to have left Germany with a draw. And good one for them that the person who converted the penalty was a former player of Bayer Leverkusen, that is Kai Havertz. And it was a good one that they got a draw. It's obvious that when they get to Emirates, definitely Arsenal will surely do the job by defeating Bayer Leverkusen. So
We'll
I
see.
see Arsenal move.
They're heavy
I see,
favorites for sure, George. We'll see when
yeah,
they get back. It'll be
yeah.
interesting. I don't know how much more there is to talk about in this game. I agree everything you said, and I think there's still a lot to play for, but Arsenal should still be in the driver's seat somewhat. Let's
Yes.
move on to Bodo Glimt, George. 3-0. I actually did not see any of the goals from this game. I saw nothing but the goals from this game. It looked like this is Bodo Glimt. They're on a dream run. It is awesome. I think this is one of the most historic runs that I've seen. Even if they lose, which they're favored now to win next week in Portugal, it's just an incredible journey. George, did you watch any of this game? Did you see the goals? From what I saw, they deserve to win 3-0. This was not lucky.
No, it's not. It's not luck. They deserve to win because they dominated the game. They outplayed Sporting CP in this game. They deserve to win the game. I'm so impressed that we have a team like this because you don't normally find teams like this every season in the Champions League. So this is one in how many years now that we are seeing a team
Ajax is probably the last team, and Ajax is closer to England and Spain than they are to Bodo Glimt in reality. Ajax has half their team is going to play on Real Madrid, Manchester City, Liverpool's of the world. 5-10 years from now, they're just young. Bodo Glimt is nobody's played for Bodo Glimt. I'm sure one or two of these guys will hop up, but they have not had historic talent in the past, and it's just a very cool circumstance. I agree.
No, honestly, I'm very excited with the way they have been performing. And to see them defeat Sporting CP 3-0, that is huge. And this is their 5th consecutive win in the Champions League. So that tells you that these guys are on a good run. And one of the motivation they have is we've defeated teams like Manchester City, we've defeated teams like Inter Milan. Then who is Sporting CP? So I feel that gave them the motivation that if they could defeat Inter Milan, both home and away, and then also defeat Manchester City, they were able to get a victory against Atletico away from home. And then they drew against Borussia Dortmund in Germany. That tells you that this team has a lot to offer in this Champions League. I strongly believe they will go to Portugal, and I don't see Sporting CP overturning the table because these guys They are on a very good run and they are in good form at the moment. So I don't see Sporting CP stopping them.
It'll
And
be good. It'll be interesting. One team that I remember making a surprise run, George, is that Monaco team that had Fabinho and Falco
yeah,
and very young Mbappe. They surprised Man City. I think they ran into Juventus. That's a team where I also was like, I have no clue who these guys are. But then I watched them. I'm like, no, this isn't an accident. They're really this good. They completely outplayed. I think it was Pep Guardiola's first season at Man City, if I remember right, him in the Champions League, and it was exceptional. Mbappe's it was scored 2 goals when he was 17 years old or something like that. It was awesome. Oh, and then of course they won League One with like 100 points that year. But again, their French league is much closer to England, Spain, Germany than they are to Norwegian league in terms of budget, in terms of players, in terms of population and development. It's just awesome to see. It's just a Norwegian team do so well. George, I think we'll spend the majority of time on PSG, Chelsea, but Real Madrid thoroughly outplayed Man City 3-0. Valverde scored 3 goals that I thought were all exceptional. Valverde, this is his first game ever scoring more than 1 goal
yeah,
in his
for the
entire
first time.
career.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I thought this game was not an accident. Mbappe did not play in this game, but they did not need him. Vinicius played exceptional. Obviously, Valverde scored all 3 goals. Man City played poorly. George, what jumped out at you for this match?
Honestly, if they had told me this game would have ended 3-0 in favor of Real Madrid, I would be very surprised. Considering the fact that the likes of Kylian Mbappe didn't feature in this game. The likes of Bellingham are not available because of injury. They have lots of players, about 7 players that are not that are not available for this game. But yet they did what most people didn't really expect. Even though we know Real Madrid is a big club and they can do what we all don't really expect, but playing against a Manchester City, I was thinking the game is going to be very, very tight. But I was surprised that in the first half, 3 goals were scored by Federico Valverde, which is his first hat-trick in his career. That is quite commendable. And I think he's the second Real Madrid midfielder to have scored the hat-trick in a European competition. So that is a big plus for him.
Wow.
Uh, yes, so the guy he is really proven because he was the captain of today's game and he
Yeah.
really took responsibility and proved that indeed that responsibility given to him as the captain is not it wasn't given to him just like that. It's based
Yeah.
on somebody who takes up responsibility and can fight for the team. And then he did so well and helped the team get the much victory. With
I
this,
thought
I
all
don't
3 goals were great too, George.
know.
There was the one goal where he like flicked it over Gahey and then like kicked it in the air to the corner. And Donnarumma is like he's not a small guy and he still like couldn't get to it. There was one where Donnarumma made what I felt was a mistake. I think he was if I remember right, he was like in the box and like he thought he was outside the box, so he didn't really push his hand out for it, and Valverde was able to take advantage. And there was another one where I think Courtois basically played Valverde through, and Valverde ran the entire length of the pitch and just slotted it in the corner. It was, and he beat. I don't think it was Gahey. I think it was Diaz in that process. I could be wrong there. I could have forgotten there, but it was just all 3 were just exceptional work by Valverde to finish there.
No, Valverde has always been one of those Real Madrid players that have shown consistency. And one thing I like about him is his shooting ability. When it comes to shooting, I can't think of any other player in Real Madrid that is as good as Valverde. Even in the Spanish La Liga, I don't think there's any player in the Spanish La Liga that can shoot with good accuracy like Valverde. So it was a very deserved victory for Real Madrid, and the way it looks like, I doubt if Manchester City can turn this around with this scoreline. It will be very,
We'll
very
see.
difficult for them.
We'll see. I mean, I think I would not write a Pep Guardiola team off at home, even against the quality of Madrid. I think that Madrid, with their midfield issue, as well as their midfield played today, I still feel like a coach like Pep can take advantage of that. I think this is closer than it looks. I mean, obviously, I think that Real Madrid are favorites here, but I think that the Pep Guardiola is a very smart coach and could definitely turn this around. Let's move. Actually, George, let me read you a stat. Real Madrid without Mbappe since August 1st, 2024, when he was debut in competitive competitions, was 11 wins, 7 draws, and only 1 loss, which was about 2 weeks ago, I think, in the Liga. Was their first loss ever without Mbappe. So they've actually arguably a better record without him than with him. I don't think that's I don't think that says anything about Mbappe as a player. I think it says more about Madrid as a team, but it's certainly an interesting statistic for me. George, all right, the bulk of this discussion, George, because I think this is the most interesting game. PSG at home 5, Chelsea 2. And the reason I say this is most interesting is because I felt Chelsea basically slightly outplayed PSG. There's a couple of great PSG goals, but Chelsea also gifted them one. And I do feel like this is an away game for Chelsea, but this could have been tighter if Chelsea, I feel like, had a better mentality. I feel like on the balance of the game, it was Chelsea was slightly on top with a couple of brilliant moments from PSG, but also a couple of gifts from Chelsea. I don't know, George. What did you see? Is that your takeaway from this game?
Anybody that didn't watch that game and you just look at the result, maybe from the live score, if you look at the result, you think maybe PSG did something so spectacular. But the reality is that Chelsea played so well in this game, but unfortunately for them, when it matters most, they lost concentration. And then their goalkeeper, Philip Jorgensen, was part of those who cost Chelsea defeat today, if you ask me, because
Yeah.
the third goal that Vitinha scored for PSG, it was as a result of the error from Jorgensen trying to give a short pass, and then I think Bakola was the one who was able to stop the ball, and then I think he added it over to passed it to Vitinha, and Vitinha was able to convert the chance.
He chipped
Chipped, yeah,
Jorgensen.
he chipped it, and that was how the whole game turned around. At some point, it was as if Chelsea equalized, but it was overruled because of offside. But one of the biggest mistakes the coach made was taking out Cole Palmer and Yao Pedro because his substitution was not top notch. If you ask me, it was highly faulty. You can't compare the substitution he made compared to what Luis Enrique did. Luis Enrique brought in the guy called Kvaratskhelia, and you saw the way he used his brilliance and turned this around for PSG because that fourth goal he scored, it was a very, very important goal. That
It
was
was
one of the goals
exceptional.
that, yeah, very exceptional. Took a very nice shot from outside the 18-yard box, and then it went straight into the net. And that was one of the things that gave PSG more motivation. And before he knew it again, the same Kvaratskhelia scored the fifth goal because of Chelsea's. Chelsea became disorganized. In fact, after the substitutions were made, they became destabilized. They were not organized anymore. They were not making. They were let me losing the balls, and
Yeah,
that was what caused
I
their
felt
downfall today.
I felt that this is the difference between Luis Enrique, who's won the European Cup twice with two different teams. The second time, he took a team that had failed multiple times and was underperforming their talent level several times, and to turn them into a machine known for discipline, positional discipline, for pressing energy. I think that turnaround culturally in PSG was huge. And Enrique, I think gets deservedly gets a lot of credit for that. I think he's a brilliant coach. His Barcelona teams also were very difficult to beat that first season he won the treble. And I feel like this is the difference between signing Liam Rosemary, who was not signed because of his talent. He was signed because he was a yes man into Chelsea. And I don't think he's a bad manager. He's being I think he's being told you got to do this or that, and he only has so much control, and his role is more to protect the investors than it is to actually coach a soccer team. And also he's inexperienced at this level against an elite team in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and made some bad subs. And I think he's a good, smart guy who will learn from this. But Enrique has been coaching in the Champions League for 10 years.
This is one of the things that gets a lot of Chelsea fans infuriated with what they do when it comes to recruitment of coaches and recruitment of players. Chelsea is a very big club. You don't bring in coaches that are inexperienced to come and coach a big club like Chelsea because the pressure that goes with Chelsea or any top club, you need a manager who is highly experienced to be in charge. But like you
George,
said,
experienced managers won't take the Chelsea position because the ownership group steps in. This has been the case since Tuchel left because the ownership group was stepping in. Pochettino left after a year. The last two coaches haven't had a lot of experience before they took this job. It's been, you know, they've driven away these coaches. It's not Chelsea's board making yeah, it's it's a double edged sword.
but Joe, that has to change. That has to stop because the approach they are using when it comes to recruitment is not working. It's not working. So there has to be a change because if we don't talk about this, then it will continue. And at the end of the day, the fans are the ones who suffer for all this. Fans cannot be paying for tickets. They can't be investing a lot when it comes to supporting a team, and then you go against their wish. That doesn't work. You don't run a football club that way because one of your major customers are your fans. If your fans are not there, then the brand Chelsea will it will amount to nothing. So they have to really make a very big change. They
But you
need to
can't listen
get
to the if you
experienced
listen to the
coaches.
fans every single time, like you're going to sack the coach every 2 months, you're going to sign these big names that aren't solid players. Like, you can't. Again, right now, a big coach wouldn't want to come to Chelsea. If I'm Xabi Alonso and I'm looking around, like I'm looking at jobs, like I'd probably prefer Liverpool, which I think is probably going to be available this summer, or Man City. I could totally see Pep Guardiola stepping down if I'm Xabi Alonso. I'd much rather have either of those positions than Chelsea. Um,
Joe, I disagree with you that a big or experienced coach can come to Chelsea. The only thing that will make them not to take up the job is based on the condition you give to them. If you give them the right conditions, the right atmosphere to work, they will be willing to take the job because Chelsea is a big club. Chelsea is a big brand. But the
George,
issue is these guys want coaches who they can
Ch-
just play around, who they can dictate things to. And that can work with experienced coaches like Thomas Tuchel. The likes of Alonso won't accept that because they want when they come, if they request for certain players, you provide it for them. And they don't want you to come and dictate to them how to manage players, which players should play, which it seems that's what is happening at Chelsea at the moment.
Chelsea also has a squad that is a bunch of young players who are not ready to win anything except for a cup. And even a cup is a struggle. As we saw today, that inexperience comes back to bite them. Any coach worth their salt is going to look at that team and be like, you guys need a couple vets. And even then, we're a year or two away. And Chelsea management is going to say no. Chelsea fans are going to disagree with that, and they're wrong. And they're going to put pressure on that coach to say, you have to win with these because you spent $1.5 billion. Even it doesn't matter how imbalanced the squad is. Like you see that same thing with Liverpool. They spent $500 million, but there's an incredibly imbalanced squad that has two gaping holes in the wings that are players who just don't fit together. And there's less pressure because he won last year, but there's still a squad imbalance issue rather than a management issue. And Chelsea, I feel like, has that not in terms of talent level in the squad, but in terms of experience level and mentality. They do not have diversity that is kind of, in my opinion, required to consistently win trophies and to build a winning culture.
Joe, maybe we just need to digress from that because we all know what the problem is. And if Chelsea board wants a top class manager, they know what to do. So I wouldn't like us to overemphasize on that because any top manager would tell you these are the players I want, and they won't want too young. They won't want too many young players in their squad. They want players who are experienced because they want to win trophies. They
Therefore, they
want things
won't.
to make.
Therefore, they won't come to Chelsea because the squad profile doesn't fit what they want.
Yes. So if you want them to come, then you have to go with their requirements, with what they want. That's the only way you can attract a top class manager. But the question I'd like to ask you is, was Leon Rosinio right to bench Robert Sanchez and then start with Jovic in this game, a guy that has not played any Champions League game this season? This is his first game. We saw that kind of decision being made by Igor Tudor when Tottenham played against Atletico. Do you think that was a good decision.
Felipe Jorgensen is a lot more experienced than Kinski, who played yesterday. Um, and so saying that, I mean, he's played, you know, over, dozens of games across multiple competitions, both for Lario and Chelsea. So just, I think he's a lot more experienced than Kinski. And obviously, Robert Sanchez, I've never been impressed with him. I don't think he's a amazing keeper. He's not the reason Chelsea are sixth instead of third, but I don't feel like he's as good as a lot of other keepers I've seen on title challenging or Champions League challenging teams. Um, so George, I can't sit here and say it's a bad decision or as objectively worse as the Kinski over Vicario decision yesterday. I think I've seen Robert Sanchez make mistakes like Felipe Jorgensen made today. Like you have too. He's probably made two or three of those mistakes this season, and it bites Chelsea sometimes. Am I not wrong? Am I wrong?
Let me tell you, before it even resulted, no, we all know that Robert Sanchez has been making some errors. But one thing I think most coaches now, there's something they've developed, trying to force goalkeepers to play with their feet. I feel the primary job of a goalkeeper is to stop shots. And if you compare both Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen, for me, the better shot stopper is Robert Sanchez. This issue of playing from the back has really costed Chelsea a lot this season. Coaches must
And
understand that for you to have I have no problem with you playing from the back, but make sure you have the right personnel to do the job. So far as I'm concerned, none of Robert Sanchez is very good when it comes to stopping shot, but playing from the back is a big problem.
well, George, if
Jorgensen,
you look at
my
if you look at two players, George, and these are the extreme examples. Peter Cech is exceptional at shot stopping and not very good at playing out of the back, and it cost him. The game has changed over the last 20 years since his winning at Chelsea, and he slowly phased out of the game probably earlier than he might have because he wasn't that good on his feet. Another player, Ederson, is amazing at passing out of the back, and I'd say above average at shot stopping, but he's not amazing. Ederson, obviously, he's older and in Turkey now, but I'm talking peak Ederson at Man City, and I feel like it just positionally you need this. It allows your center backs to play wider. It allows your fullbacks to push higher up the pitch in possession. It puts so much more pressure on the other team. It allows you to play defense so much more effectively. It is a requirement in today's league. Neuer is an example of a player who's amazing at both. Same with Allison. But Ederson, I feel like is quintessential example of this guy is better than a shot stopper who can't play with his feet like Peter Cech.
So what it means is if you want to play that kind of football, if you want to play that style of football, then you need a goalkeeper who is both good with his feet and is a very good shot stopper because the primary duty of a goalkeeper is to stop shots. So playing with the feet is an addition. So if you don't have the right personnel, trying to force the goalkeeper to play from the back will always cost you things we saw today. That's what I
George,
feel.
if you're a top club and you can't play it out of the back, you are behind other clubs. And if none of your personnel can do it, then you need to force it. And then if that doesn't work, you find somebody that summer because that is an emergency if you have a keeper that can't play out of the
So
back,
what
in
it
my
means is
opinion.
that Chelsea will have to get a goalkeeper who is a very good shot stopper and is very good with his foot, with his feet. That's
I
that's
think
what I
getting
feel.
somebody who's very good at their feet is more important than shot stopping, in my opinion. Shot stopping is mostly about positioning. I mean, players who have great highlight reels are typically not as good as I feel like is overrated. I feel like good keepers make their job look easy. But I feel like shot stopping is most important. And again, Ederson is, in my opinion, a better keeper for today's. Peak Ederson is a better keeper for today's game than a Peter Cech or any number of keepers who are great shot stoppers and bad with their feet.
Well, for me, I always believe the primary job of a goalkeeper is to stop shots. If you can't stop shot, even if you are very good with your foot, for me, is irrelevant. That's the
Uh,
thing. Having being
I,
good with your feet is just an additional skill. So in
George, let's
this,
disagree, and I got to close out and say,
okay.
question to the audience number one: do you feel like a top team can deal with a keeper that can't play with his feet, or do you feel like a supreme shot stopping keeper can make up for that? That's a question that George and I obviously disagree on. Number two, do you feel like Chelsea have a chance coming back? I actually do feel like Chelsea have a chance. I feel like City have a chance as well. We'll see. Do Leverkusen have a chance in London next week? And what was your favorite goal today? Let us know your thoughts. And also, was the Madueke Havertz penalty? Was that a penalty? George and I both think it was soft. Let us know your thoughts.